Well, spring training kicked off in kind of an awkward fashion, of course, with the arrival of Mike Clevinger, who we've spoken about in
Yes,
previous
yes.
episodes, the controversy surrounding him. He took it to the next level after 670 The Score interviewed his, I guess it's
Accuser.
ex girlfriend slash accuser, baby
Yes.
mama. They put her on the Parkins and Spiegel show, and she is not afraid to speak her mind, which is great for to I guess get her side of the story and get more information about this really disturbing story in general. But Mike Clevenger was not too happy about it and threatened to sue the radio network for putting her on the air. And I'm not sure he understands how lawsuits work or how libel or slander cases work or what grounds upon which he'd be suing the network, the radio station, for interviewing a woman. Seems rather rather naive and ridiculous that he think he's pissed off about it. And I mean, obviously he was not serious, but I mean he did mention his lawyers might be involved or however he phrased it. But I thought that was ridiculous. It sucks that the situation's happening at all. You know, just as we predicted, it's been awkward. I mean, Rick Hahn had to have an awkward conversation with media as Clevenger arrived to spring training. It has to be addressed. It can't be swept under the rug. The question is, the only way this gets resolved is when Major League Baseball makes their decision on whether he needs to be suspended or not, or whether he's completely exonerated. And we have no idea when that time is coming. It's crazy that spring training has started already. We have no idea. So this awkwardness and this horrible story is going to linger until they decide one way or the other on this. So have you heard anything about like when this could actually be resolved?
No, but
It just
there
doesn't
were
seem fair to the Sox to do
there
this.
there were comments made that by Pedro Grafal, um, that from what he's heard, he doesn't believe it's going to be an issue going forward. Now, I don't know what that means, and I don't
Yeah,
know
that's a
what he's heard from who, or maybe he was just trying to get the,
if he just
yeah,
decides it's not an issue. I mean, people have the right to decide on their own if they think it's an issue that he
no,
potentially
meaning
is.
meaning that he's going to be exonerated, and it's not. It was in reference to him being suspended. I mean, here's the deal. I don't agree with the Score putting her on the air. I think it was reckless on the
Reckless.
because
It's news. I mean,
but it's news that
it's entertainment also.
nobody, you don't know. She could be fucking crazy for all we know. And there's only one news source.
So could Mike Clevenger.
I know, right? He
So why
probably
put him
is.
on the air? I
Well,
mean,
they asked the question, so he didn't even want to deal with it. He's like, I guess you guys have to ask this, and here's what I'll say, and that's it. But and the story's strange. The only outlet that reported there was a police report filed is the Washington Post. When the White Sox did the background check, it's not in there. There is no police report in his background check.
right. But the news story of this is that MLB is investigating. And that's all.
Only because she called them.
Well, and again, I mean, it's not. We kind of debated this whole thing before, but I just think it's ridiculous to expect the Score not to try. They have no responsibility to the White Sox or to Mike Clevenger. They want listeners, and if they can get people to listen to their radio shows by interviewing different people for whatever reason, they're going to do it. There's no legal reason that she couldn't be on
no,
the
I
air.
don't think there's no legal reason, because there's no legal case, which is baffling. There's nothing legal about this case.
Right.
That is why would you put someone on the air who hasn't filed anything in a
I just told you
legal
because people want to listen.
I know,
People
but
want to hear what she has
in a
to
legal
say.
fashion, you're just
Well, this isn't like you said. It's not a legal thing. He made it a legal thing by threatening a lawsuit.
well, yeah, that's just stupid. I agree
Well,
with that
thank you. That
100%.
was my
Yeah.
whole point of bringing this up.
Oh,
It's
oh yeah,
just
yeah.
stupid.
But like I made a post about this, and I got lit up on Twitter, and I'm just like, I think we should just all pause for a second, and if he's guilty, then he's guilty, and he's found guilty, and that's it. But this case is for people to be comparing it to the Trevor Bauer situation.
Yeah, we went over this part of
Yeah,
that last
but
episode.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
The new
it's not.
part of it was the score getting involved. So
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to bring up.
yeah,
But
no, I get it. I mean, I get it. I just think it was like, it's definitely was sensationalism, and that is truly why they did it. So I
yeah,
understand.
the other thing I saw a lot on that is like people are criticizing journalism in general. Like a
Well,
sports talk radio station is not journalism. I mean, the Parkins and Spiegel show is an entertaining thing, but it is in no way journalism. I think people get that confused all the time, which I
yeah,
think
I
is
agree.
hilarious. So
I agree. I mean, shit. Was it Mike North didn't even have a freaking degree in broadcasting or anything,
I
and
mean,
got on the air because he was entertaining enough and people liked his opinions or
right.
hated his opinions, but he brought in listenership at that time.
I
So
mean, you could say that
yeah,
about podcasting. I
no,
mean,
right, true,
we have
yeah.
no
I'm not
credentials.
pretending. Other than when I'm undercover deep throat or whatever we call that, that's the only time I'm truly a journalist.
The only credentials that Parkins and Spiegel have, or any radio host has, is they're good enough at their jobs that people want to pay them to do it.
Yeah,
So
true.
they
Yeah,
don't
right.
have to have a license or anything like that. So unfortunately, you and I are nowhere close to being good enough to have people want to pay us to do that. We're happy to have a handful of people listen to us from
Yes,
time to time.
but
So
if
thank you
anyone
very
should
much.
want to, we'll be happy to put your name up and talk about you on the air if anyone would
We are looking
like
for
to.
sponsorship,
Yeah.
as you may or may not have noticed that we're not going to speak about. But
Well, yeah.
yes,
Yes.
the other interesting
This is
Chicago White
hilarious.
Sox
Yeah.
versus the local media uh, incident occurred between the typically good buddies Tim Anderson and Chuck Garfien, post game host on NBC Chicago, host of the White Sox Talk podcast. Probably the the biggest White Sox slappy I've run across. I've called him a meathead. He is the White Sox equivalent of David Kaplan on the North Side, who's he left NBC, which is fantastic because I never hear, and I don't listen to ESPN 1000 in the morning anymore, so I never have to hear about David Kaplan anymore.
Oh, he's off of Comcast.
Yeah, I forget what he went to do, but I know
Oh,
he's not
sweet.
doing the Cubs Talk podcast anymore, which is neither is
Sweet.
Gordon Whitmire, which is so awesome to have those fuckers gone. But I just I was amused to hear that Chuck and TA got into a tiff, a bit of a tiff, where Chuck was definitely mystified that
He was.
TA called him out for not being as supportive as he needed to be for their White Sox over there. So I'm assuming you saw this. I was wondering what your thoughts
Yeah.
were on it.
I mean, I think I think it's all hilarious. Let me just start off by saying that. I will tell you that watching religiously watching the pregame and postgame, and especially the postgame after
Postgame is, especially
tough
last year,
losses, yeah,
was incredible.
It was really hard sometimes.
Mainly Ozzy.
There were
Ozzy
times
just
where
went
Ozzy
off.
was, yeah, well, Ozzy was hilarious most of the time, but Chuck, like, and then they do like the fourth inning and the seventh inning visit, and there was just times where I was just like, dude, like, just get over it, right? But like Tim TA as a whole, like, the shit was bad last year, dude. I mean, I get like the idea of like everyone should be supportive, but everyone has a right. If I'm paying $60 a ticket to walk into the ballpark and the product on the field isn't what it's supposed to be, I've got a
Yeah.
right to voice my opinion. Doesn't
I
mean
could
I'm not supporting the team,
right.
but I mean,
I can see why TA wouldn't be happy about that, but I feel like he's being really naive and not really understanding what media is supposed to be there for. I mean, and especially it is a little bit I mean, again, we're getting into realms of journalism or media responsibilities, but this is the White Sox post game show or in game show, whatever it is.
yeah,
Uh, but it doesn't mean that they just are the corporate mouthpiece for the organization.
yeah,
They're there to express their opinions. They're there to, as an interface between the fans and the team. And I don't think anyone
yeah,
who was paying attention last year had anything different than the frustration that Chuck Garfien expressed throughout the season. So it was odd. I think they're really close, actually, or fairly close for how much a post game show host and an athlete could be. I think they've had a good relationship over the years. So I think TA was kind of fucking with them a little bit, but it did feel like he, I don't know, naive, I guess was the term that kept coming up in my head, that he would expect, people to, no matter what happens with the White Sox in, their, you call it the most disappointing season of your life, considering the expectations and the ending results, you're going to have to be ready for some criticism. And it
yeah.
felt strange, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of, and this is a little bit different situation, but in 2004, I believe, at the end of that season,
The
when
Cubs,
Steve Stone
yeah,
and Chip Carey were very critical during the broadcasts of the games in the booth, and were summarily released from their duties, and that is
exactly.
why Steve Stone is now on the south side of Chicago calling games for your Chicago White Sox. So that's a little bit apples and oranges, but I
No,
always
but
thought
I thought the
that
same thing when I heard it.
I thought that situation was ridiculous. That's also back when the Cubs were still owned by the Tribune Company, so it was definitely a corporate entity that had no sense of humor whatsoever.
No, definitely not.
Faceless corporate monolith that did not want to hear any criticism coming from anywhere, even though that was one of the most disappointing Cubs seasons that I could remember after the devastation, but the rise of the Cubs in 2003, how it ended, absolutely sucked. But they were supposed to be awesome in 2004,
There's no
and
reason not to be, you know?
yeah, and they struggled. They're okay, and then they fell off the face of the earth in the last week of the season, and that was the famous Sammy Sosa boombox incident,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually left the final game of the season, which I was in attendance. He left the game early and was never seen on the north side again, and he still isn't to this day. So I don't know. It just I'm not. I don't think the TA Chuck Garfien incident goes nearly to that level, but it's just interesting that I'm just pairing those two events together. That it feels like the White Sox are angry, and now they're taking it out on the Chicago media.
Yeah, hopefully they just take it out on their opponents, and then everyone will shut up. I mean,
That would
let's be
be
honest.
well directed anger.
Yeah, yeah, let's be honest. Go out and do what you're supposed to do, and uh, you know, you won't hear anyone bitching. I mean, if you, it's so funny because did you read in the Athletic, Jim Bowden did his like assessment and what he thinks how the season's going to
I
go.
have
And
issues with Jim Bowden, but yes, I love the Athletics. So
yeah, but he has he had the Sox. He started the AL Central with the Sox, saying they could easily win the division because they are the most talented team. He's like, but
we've been
staying
saying that for
healthy.
how many years now?
He's like staying healthy
Yeah.
and and extracting basically all that talent is the question. So they could finish anywhere from 1 to 3rd, and that is kind of
Wow.
like, in a way, I kind of feel the same way, right? If everything, if everything we thought was going to happen last year should somehow fall into place this year, then I think they, do win the division. Am I optimistic that that's going to happen? I'm not. You know,
Well,
it's very like it's going to be a slow rise. You know how we were talking beforehand. You're like, I'm just not terribly excited to talk about my teams, but I will as the season goes on, and
Mhm.
if they get momentum in that, like
I
I'm
mean, you
excited. I'm
had
excited for the baseball season, but like
you had a horrible season last year. You've had nothing to really cheer about this off season. I mean, you had
well, we
your
didn't have
closer.
anything.
Yeah, your closer has cancer, and he was out on the field this weekend. I saw, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
really cool to see. You've got the Mike Clevinger incident. You didn't have Sox Fest. Like, what do you have? You have Pedro Grifol, some dude from the fucking Royals taking over. What do you have to be fired up about? So I don't think
I
you should. Don't question your loyalty to your team.
Oh, I'm not questioning.
They have given you nothing to cheer about over this offseason. So
Word Hole Media.